Welcome to another episode of Just a Thought with Shari Nycole. I'm your host, Shari Nycole, and one of my favorite people. I just love smart people. I just love accomplished, smart, and kind people. Attorney, speaker, reality TV star, author, and host of the hit nightly news show, The Griot with Eboni K. Williams. The K stands for kind. You can catch it on The Griot weeknights at 6 p.m. She's here with me now. I've been trying to get an interview with Eboni for 3 years. It might be longer. And we've...
You know what, Shari? Girl, you playing, but it's great to see you, my gorgeous.
It is great to see you
Can't
too.
believe it, Shari. She just making up stuff, y'all.
I've been trying. I'm like, when can I get Eboni? Wait, and we made it happen. Shout out to Kennedy Fuller. Appreciate you. But in all honesty, Eboni, I just do want to give you flowers really quickly. Thank you so much for being a constant, not only in this industry, but as a person. When I first met you, you were years ago at good old Sister Circle, and you have been a part of this tribe of women that if I need advice or if I need to lean in professionally about something, you have always made yourself available, and to be as busy as you are and important as you are, I sincerely appreciate it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of course, sweetheart. Listen, I'm proud of you. I've seen such tremendous expansion of your leadership in this industry, from a producer space, on air talent in your own right, and it does an old broad good to see young folks shining in their own light. It's really beautiful. So congratulations.
I thank you, and thank you for leading the charge on that. And I do want to ask you, Eboni, because it's interesting. Like, I have always been just very much in respect of how you communicate standard. Just how you view excellence. I just love it. Some people have a time with it. That's a personal problem. But with that said, before we dive too deeply into some specific things, I do want to ask you, overall, do you feel misunderstood? And if so, in what way?
I don't think I'm so much misunderstood, Shari, as I become a mirror, right, for society, and specifically, let's talk localized for a minute and talk about us as a Black culture and Black community. And I believe that when you happen to be a Black person and you have the audacity, let me be more specific. When you happen to be a Black woman, and you have a specific way of being in this world, when you have a specific expectation around what your lived experience is going to look like in this world, I think that could very easily, and on some level understandably, be construed as elitist, as thinking you are somehow different or better than some other, or quote, ordinary Black folks that are more accepting of more things, a broader, kind of acceptance palette, if you will. And I think what I would just reiterate with the question is, what's for me is for me. That's it. It's for me. I'm big Virgo energy over here, and I make no apologies, and I don't take it personally when my very kind of specific demand and requirement for all aspects of my life, Shari. I know we're kind of subtextually talking about, dating and men and bus driver gate, but really what people would be well served to know about me, and if there's anything that's misunderstood, it's that that's not a unique place of standard bearing in my life. I only have certain types of women in my life as my girlfriends, right? And you know some of the ladies that I run with. I only live in a certain type of home. When I recently went into my home buying journey, which was a long and, difficult journey, which, we should talk about. It was difficult and long, partly because I had a high expectation of where I was about to buy property in Manhattan, period. I have to look a certain way. I don't just buy, like, my little thing for clothes is I can't just like it. I have to love it. If I don't love it, I'm not going to buy it, period. It goes for how I like to eat. It goes for where I went to school. So yes, I am a Black woman in America who has the audacity to demand the very best in this life because I'm God's daughter. I'm God's daughter. And he said, and the word tells me, that I shall have supreme living. And I actually I just choose to insist upon it. That's all.
I might take that supreme living, make it a hashtag, and put it on my Woman Wednesday post
Mm-hmm.
for next week. You mentioned I am a Black woman. You put a stamp on that a few times, and I want to move to that for a moment because I saw a clip, and I'm not trying to be messy, okay? Because I know funky.
Messy.
I know.
Just playing, girl.
I know Funky Dineva personally. Okay, I actually know him as Quentin Latham. I know him personally, but I saw a clip that really grinded my gears. Just an unsolicited, unprovoked attack on Chloe Bailey. And what bothered me is this, I just feel like there's this constant barrage of bullets that Black women continue to have to take, especially in media, up top, it's even on Black platforms how is this happening? Where's our responsibility in making sure that we gatekeep certain things from happening, right? And so what is it going to take for Black women, in my opinion, it's my opinion, guys, to stop being target practice when it comes to conversations, when it comes to pop culture? We're in cancel culture, but it seems that when Black women are being attacked, nobody's getting canceled. It's just, okay, and moving on.
So I will say, in full disclosure, I saw some rumblings of this Chloe Bailey Funky D situation. I don't know the specifics, but I know the generalized barrage of Black female resentment that you speak about. And I think it's rooted in resentment, and I use that word specifically. And I think it starts with this. What's it going to take? Let me answer your question first, Shari. What it's going to take is more Black women like myself, more Black women like Megan Thee Stallion. I want to use her very specifically in this particular moment. More Black women like Anita Hill, more Black women who are willing to bear the cost of disrupting societal norms for where Black women should be, which is in a place of subordination and submission.
Yeah.
And it's going to take more Black women saying, you could talk about us, because guess what? They talked about Jesus. That's what my mom always say, right? The colloquial way that we as Black culture refer to they. Let's be very clear.
I know, because don't be coming for this podcast or Ebony.
Right.
We're not trying to apologize to nobody. Like, we
just gave it just that cultural context, right? But it's going to take more Black women, Shari, and there have always been many of us from the dawn of time that are willing to say, you can call me ugly. It's very Miss Sealy. I'm Black. I'm ugly. Don't nobody want me. But guess what? I'm still here.
Yeah.
Still here. And that's the thing. Y'all, drag me on this platform, drag me, it's people still litigating the merits of Meg Thee Stallion's shooting, even though a jury has ruled and convicted. And you still have individuals, including some Black women. Yeah. So let's not be at all mistaken as if misogyny or sexism is only done at the hands of men. There's plenty of women carrying the pail of misogyny on behalf of that system. Just like there's plenty of Black folks, unfortunately, doing the work of white supremacy better than the oppressor himself. Preach. So it's important that we name that, right? But as long as there have been Black women, Shari, and you know this because you are one and you come from a long legacy of them, there will be Black women like us who will continue to stand in the cold, who will continue to take the barrage of targets and bullets and whatever else, and we will continue to stand because that's what we are built for. Now, would it be nice to be able to live in this soft girl era I keep hearing about? It would be lovely. I would really love to know what that's like. But unfortunately, the way my integrity is set up, the way my insistence is set up, I will continue to have to, I guess, live hard, if you will, to kind of use the Summer Walker framing, right? It's like you say you want me to live a hard life, but the circumstances you create for me require me to be hard. So until we kind of reconcile that disconnection, this is where we're going to be.
Yeah. You mentioned when we started talking about you being a mirror.
And
I thought that was such a great metaphor to use. I also think it bears a huge weight of responsibility. Yeah. When did you realize that you were a mirror, and when did you own the responsibility of that comfortably?
Comfortably. Yeah, key word there is comfortably. I would say it probably was during my tenure on Real Housewives of New York City. Obviously the most visible platform I've experienced to this point in my career. And the visceral reaction, both inside of the culture, but also obviously outside of the culture, both good and bad, right? There were, to this day, tons of people that felt my representation on that platform at that time, in the context of those particular white women I was cast along, was very important. They thought it was very strong representation of what it looks like to, again, be a Black woman and insist upon a certain way of being, insist upon a certain level of respect, insist upon a certain amount of space created for my existence. And then there were those who thought, it was all too much. There were those that thought it was all too distracting from their desired good time, who thought there was just too much, that I took up too much space. As the first and only Black woman on that particular platform who has a known history of white shenanigan. And I think all of it has points of validness, depending on your point of view. And again, that's where I take it on the chin. But that's where I knew for sure that I was serving as a mirror, because all of that commentary and all of that vitriol, no matter the direction it was aimed at, was not at all about me, even a little bit. This was all about people's personal kind of reconciliations with how they show up at work every day, and the microaggressions they let slide by white colleagues, or even, catch this tea, their white romantic partners or spouses whom they share a home with, right?
Yeah.
Or, other things about it was people that were upset because they know that they themselves hold and espouse anti-Black sentiment, anti-Semitic sentiment, trans and homophobic sentiment. And how dare someone call someone else out, because that just means it's going to be just a few minutes before somebody calls your ass out. And that's what Mirror does.
Want to be a mirror. I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna try to be one too, because that's fun. That's fun to me. We need
fun. It can be fun, but I'm not gonna. It could be fun, but it will cost you though. I do want to be clear. I got a lot of swag and bravado with the way I move through this world, but you've known me for many years, and so one thing you can attest, Shari, is that this takes a coat of armor to do the work that I do and exist in the spaces that I exist in the way that I have for so long. A lot of people come in this business, a lot of people go, right? We've both seen it. So to stand, whether it's on Fox News, to stand, whether it's State of the Culture with Revolt, to stand on The Griot or Real Housewives of New York City season 13, or as I'm about to do as a judge on my new show, Equal Justice with Judge Eboni K. Williams. But to stand in that consistently on the 10 toes of integrity, truth, and honor, that requires some armor. That is not for the faint of heart, babe.
Absolutely. I want to dive into Bet on Black. Before I do that, I do want to ask you about just the whole bus driver gate. We all know that happened. I'm not gonna necessarily dive deeply back into that, but I do want to ask you, as one Black woman who I guess I could say I'm just a little successful. I'm trying to be on Ebony's level one day. But
very successful, doctor. You you better stand in that success. Go ahead.
When you maneuver as a successful Black woman,
yes,
there are things that come along with it. And in certain respects, dating can be a challenge. And I don't think that was discussed enough in your case. More so was about she says she don't date a bus driver. The criticism was around your preference versus what does it really look like to wade through the waters of dating and relationships as someone who is highly successful. What has that been like for you, and what have you learned about yourself in the process?
Right. Okay. So let's go to a topical example. We're journalists, right? Let's pull a news headline that everybody's talking about right now, which of course is the fact that Halle Berry has just been making headlines for having to pay $8,000 per month her own son to her ex-husband, Olivier Martinez. Okay, so everybody and their mama's talking about this. Most people are Team Halle, right? Most people are saying it's terrible that a woman is having to pay child support for her own child. Now, we're looking at it in the context of Halle Berry, and that's fine. But the reality is, there's a lot of Halle Berrys walking around among us. Now, I'm not saying that we're all Oscar winners and that we all have, I'm just going to say $100 million, wealth portfolio. But I'm going to say something that's going to make some people uncomfortable, Shari. There is a significant portion of Black American women, particularly when you're talking about in some of the major metropolitans, that are living in New York, Atlanta, DC, Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, and the like, right? Mm-hmm. And many of us are making north of $250,000 a year. That's a fact. That's a fact. There are some of us who have been blessed beyond measure and put a bit of hard work in, and we've eclipsed that 7-figure mark. We are actually numerically, and I'm not speaking hyperbole here, I exist along with a cohort of other Black women just like me, and we encompass a part of the top 1% of income owners in New York City. That's our reality now. And it's a blessing. Yeah. But to your point, let's get under the hood, right, of what this does to traditional romantic relationship expectations and, let's say, gender roles. Now, before I go on, I want to preface this with where I'm about to go in the analysis is going to be very heteronormative because of the way I want to frame this, but I want to make the space that not everybody's a damn heterosexual, okay? Mm-hmm. And that let's just say that because that needs to be said, mm-hmm. and that these gender roles can look very different based on that construction. But let's go to good old-fashioned heterosexual relationships, where the currencies that each gender brought to the table were as follows. Women were assessed and valued based primarily on their youth, their aesthetic beauty, and their fertility, their ability to carry and birth your big-headed children. Okay, and it's pretty much in that order: youth, aesthetic beauty, fertility. Those are the main, and then all the nurturing, the cooking, and the cleaning, and all of that. Great. Your ability to create a softness in the home. Mm-hmm. Great. Now let's go to men. Where have we historically evaluated men's worth? First and foremost, financially. Can you provide a roof over our head and the heads of our big-headed children? Okay. That's very important. That's been the primary thing that society has said that men bring to the table that we value as a society. Your ability to financially provide. Then we get to the other stuff. Your stature, right? It's a reason what tall men, for instance, have a social advantage because they are perceived at least to be better protectors. Mm-hmm. Better protectors. So those are the ways in which we historically have always valued respective genders. Now, when you remix it for a current era, where again, this is not Eboni hypothesizing, the numbers tell us Black women are out earning by way of income. We are graduating from undergraduate and professional schools at a rate of almost 7-to-1 compared to Black men. We are owning homes at a rate of 2-to-1. So for every single Black woman that buys a home in America today, because we make up 20% of all home buyers are single women, actually, it's only 9% that are single men in the same scenario. And this by no way is an indictment of Black men. And this is part where maybe people are misunderstanding, right, Shari? Mm-hmm. This is saying that there's a variety of systemic things at play. Everything from mass incarceration, everything from a drug war, everything from we can go back to, the breaking up of Black family during Black enslavement, right? So there's a lot of reasons as to why Black women and Black men have been positioned socially away from one another. Mm-hmm. But as we see that strata bear out in real time, fast forward to 2023, you have a situation where you've got a collective of Black women who are now bringing, quote, to the table, where we are where we have a surplus of value are in things that historically we are not valued for. We are now, this is the hard truth, right? We are now bringing tons of education. We're bringing all the degrees. We're bringing a surplus of assets. We're bringing deeds to homes. We're bringing, y'all get it, right? And guess what else is happening? As I found out very much so during Bus Driver Gate, I became extremely old. Everybody's talking about what an old spinster, what you call it, old hag, dried up, middle-aged, don't nobody want you type of bitch I was. I was barren. I didn't even know that, child. Me nor my fertility. Barren, can't carry no kids, no way. Who wants you? What else did they say? And some people even wanted to fake and pretend and make me broke too. So I think that we got to look at the fact that whether it makes you feel good or not, this is where Black women are. A lot of it we didn't want to be. Let's be candid. I think if we could live the soft life, most of us would choose to. I think a lot of us have had real circumstances and real fears that if we don't go out and provide for ourselves, if we don't go out and protect ourselves and our children, we will be left without. And guess what? A lot of us, we're not going to go without. I just told you, superior life. Okay. So that's not happening. Then let's talk about men. A lot of men have been undermined in their ability to be some of the highest earners. We just talked about all the systemic reasons why that exists. So you've got an imbalance here. And so until we get honest about how are we reframing our expectations, right? All right, because I agree with the feedback that said, well, Eboni, you are 40, which is right at middle age. You are on the back end of your fertility. The things that really would have made you most desirable to most men are no longer at play in the same way. So the men that you want, and they're right about this part, right, Shari? The men that I'm attracted to are not looking for a financial or even an aged equal. They're looking for youth and fertility and those other things. So it creates this disconnect where you've got each gender kind of wanting different things because the other side of it is, yes, I do want a man who's at least a financial equal. And unfortunately, a lot of these men are not able to participate at the level. And the ones that are, because there are definitely men and Black men especially that can participate. But what are they attracted to? Because often, again, it's going to be the youth. It's going to be somebody who's got more time on their hands to be able to accommodate their lifestyle more accordingly.
There's so much to unpack there. When this is over, I'm going to go back and listen because that just ministered to me in so many ways. And another thing that ministered to me is Bet on Black. This is a phenomenal book, guys. If you don't have Bet on Black, the good news about being Black in America today by Eboni K. Williams, you don't love yourself. And I want to dive in a little bit, especially with this election looming and all this political ping pong being played. It's crazy. But in part of your book, you said, and thus, as Black people, we have to be more demanding individually and collectively, placing what we need on the table up front, unapologetically, with no shame, and with a willingness to bear the consequences of our demand. When we think about this upcoming election, how can we use what you said here as a template, as Black folk in particular, to not look up in 2028 and be complaining about the same things we've been complaining about seemingly since the beginning of time?
Yeah, it's a great inquiry there. I think, to be direct, I think we got to get single issue. And that's hard, right, from a political standpoint, because we as Black Americans have so many, social ailments. We'll be here all day. We got a healthcare crisis. We got an education crisis. We got a home ownership crisis. We got a mass incarceration crisis, right? But I think let's just say this, when I look at other groups, I could be talking about Jewish Americans. I could be talking about gun owners. I could be talking about reproductive rights of women, right? So let me just kind of get more specific. AIPAC, which is a political organization that advances and lobbies for the rights of Israel and American relationships, which a lot of American Jews are supportive of. NRA, okay, that's your National Rifle Association, that's your gun owners, and Planned Parenthood. So that kind of gives you a nice spectrum. So this is not a left-right thing I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about when you look at the most effective political lobbying groups in America, and I just named you the three, and there's others, but let's go top three. Planned Parenthood, NRA, and AIPAC, the thing that they have in common is they are singular in issue. AIPAC cares about one thing and one thing only, is Israel, period. NRA cares about one thing and one thing only, the most unabashed ability to possess and purchase guns and sell them in America, period. Planned Parenthood, one thing. Now, they do a lot of things. You know, I got a whole pap smear at Planned Parenthood before. Don't worry about it. Mind your business. But healthcare was expensive in those early years. But anyway, the main thing that they focus on in their lobbying is, again, the most unfettered right of a woman in America to get a safe, legal abortion. Until Black America's political consciousness has that kind of meticulous focus, in my estimation, and we say we're going to pick an issue, and you can pick any one I said. Now, personally, I think we pick reparations. Here's why. Here's why. And I can't believe I'm saying this, because if you would have told me 20 years ago that I would have said this, I would not have believed you. But I've shifted my analysis around it, and not because I didn't believe we deserved them 20 years ago. We've always deserved them. I didn't believe it was politically viable. But now I do. I'm going to tell you why. Number one, I know more history now. So number one, when you look at the fact that every other group that has suffered the blood of America's tyranny, whether it's the Japanese, whether it is some of the Jewish Europeans who were denied entry after the Holocaust and during the Holocaust, whether it's some of the indigenous folks. Now, you can never give them enough for their blood and suffering, but they've gotten some minuscule level of compensation. Point is, everybody else has gotten some. Even the enslaved, the slave owners who seceded from the Union, who were literal traitors and terrorists of America. Guess what they got? Reparations. They did. And so now there is a legal template that says Black Americans, and let's be specific, and California is already doing some of this work of teasing out which Black identifying Americans would be qualified for reparations, and that's going to be important in this work. Which descendants of enslaved Africans are due to receive reparations, what the proportionality is. And then the other thing on this, Shari, is just like many like to argue around abortion as a moral issue, reparations is a moral issue. Yes. And I think the more heavy-handed we are in the framing it around the morality of our nation, the more successful we are politically. And when we talk about a real reparations package, which doesn't necessarily need to only be a check, the way we get like a COVID check or so, you know, that type of hardship, it really should be, I think, multifaceted. I think there should be some level of cash compensation. I think primarily I'd love to see 0% interest rates for home loans. I'd like to see a revisiting of everything that Black people were excluded from in the New Deal legislation. I'm talking about, like I said, 0 to very low interest home rates. I'm talking about 0 down payment for home own. And I keep talking about homes because we know that we're talking about wealth building, because income is one thing, wealth is something different, right?
Yeah.
I could be in the highest 1% income in New York and Texas and everywhere else, but if you ain't got no assets, bitch, you broke. Bitch, you broke. Okay, so we're talking about wealth, asset building, and home ownership, as we know, is a key gateway opportunity for most Americans. That's how the middle white class of America became the middle white class of America, through all of that 1940s GI Bill legislation that allowed them to participate in home ownership, most of them for the first time. So this wealth gap, the way it looks today, y'all, it's relatively recent. When you go back to the origin story of the United States of America, most whites were not wealthy. Most whites were of the planting class. Let's talk. See, people don't know their history, and that's part of the problem. We kind of think of binaries of wealthy whites and poor Blacks. Baby, that's all new. We think about the construction of race. We think about Jewish Americans, Italian Americans, Irish Americans. Baby, all of them just got white 60 years ago, 70 years ago. You know what I mean? They were red lines away from the best schools, just like we were.
Yeah.
of this stuff is doable in a way that I think a generation or two ago would have seemed so far-fetched. But now that we have more factuary, now that we understand the legal precedent and template, now that we understand the ways in which certain policies have almost immediate, severe effect on wealth building in just a generation, I think the single issue America should be talking about as it relates to political negotiations going into 2024 is reparations or bust.
Can you lead the charge on that, Eboni? How much? Yeah.
Who, me? You want me to be more of a mirror?
Yes. I think you could. Of course, you can handle it. That's not even a question.
Child, these people don't want to hear this truth. I don't think so. I think there's too many this is where I become, unfortunately, what's your girl Jocelyn? Is it don't take Jocelyn Hernandez from what she said one season. I don't really watch it, but my girlfriend told me because she's got a beautiful body, right?
Yeah.
And I heard one season early on, people were like, "Girl, how do you look like that? What do you do?" And she's like, "Bitch, I can tell you what I do. You're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it." And you know this. You're a fitness pro. So I could tell you it like I just laid out that brilliant argument for reparations or bust. Congress ain't gonna do it. Hakeem them not gonna do it. Who that? Chucky Schumer and them. You think Chuck Schumer is gonna adopt what I just laid out for you? No. Girl, please. And so that's a whole nother conversation, right? Yeah. Where we got political leadership that despite some good intentions from maybe some of them, because I do want to say for the record, I think Hakeem Jeffries has great intentions for Black people, but I think you're talking about a bureaucratic machine known as American legislative policy that would make that extremely difficult for those that are actually in effective elected office.
I agree. A couple more questions before I let you out of here, Eboni. Last question about Bet on Black. Because you are a woman of excellence, because you are extremely just researched and studied across the board, how would you like Black people in particular to qualify excellence when they read this book? What do you want them to walk away with when we talk about how to qualify excellence?
Yeah, I want to answer your question with the inverse, which is how I don't want them to qualify it. I don't want them to qualify excellence for us as Black people based on a white standard. Right? I did a really strong podcast with the Brothers of Surface Level recently. I'm sure you saw some of it. I think people can get triggered by the term Black excellence because underneath that is this presumption that we got to do more and prove better because we're Black in a way that whiteness gets to just be mediocre. Whiteness just gets to be default posture. So when I talk about excellence in Bet on Black, y'all got to understand, I finalized my divorce from white acceptance and white perspective and white concern. I don't care nothing about what white America or whiteness or white people think of me at all. And because I totally divorced myself from white gaze, right? Yeah. I get to establish my template for what excellence in all endeavors and form look like for me. Yeah, based solely on a known, learned, studied pedigree of really African ancestry. So I make the argument, as you know in the book, that Blackness is innately excellent, contrary to popular belief. That Blackness, when you look at kind of our pedigree, and I'm not, of course, saying all Black people are all excellent all the time, we're individuals, but when you talk about the social construction of Black aesthetic, the social construction of a Black intelligentsia, of Black collective ways of being, tell me that's not excellent. That's that derives from an innate posture of excellence. So that is the framing in which I want people to really understand excellence as I put forth in Bet on Black.
Speaking of excellence, what does the next elevation for Eboni K. Williams look like?
I could tell you about it, but I'd rather show you.
Lord have mercy. Now I got to wait.
You got to wait. But I say that in jest, but I also say that because listen, and everybody, uses social media as they see fit. And it can be an incredible tool. But personally, I'm just not a big fan of the Wait till y'all see what I got coming, y'all. Hold on, check back in next week. I got an announcement for y'all. That's just not really mine. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Why is that?
When the shit gets ready to pop, y'all gonna talk about it. I don't understand the thinking. I guess I also am not a big fan of kind of suspended anticipation. I like to just go ahead and just hit it. You know what we talking about? What we getting ready for, bitch? I'm tired of getting ready. I'm tired. You know, so let's just premiere the show when the show is ready to premiere. Announce the thing when it's ready to put the book out when it's ready to be published. What are we talking about? Y'all gonna see it?
Ebony said it, not me. Y'all gonna see. I also need
Y'all
to
gonna
make
see.
sure.
I promise y'all. I always keep something fun for y'all. Like every 3 to 6 months, we got something fun coming.
Ebony is out here podcasting, executive producing, hosting, authoring, literally a jack of all trades. Like the personification of a Renaissance woman is the person I just got a chance to have an amazing exchange with. If you are not catching her right now on The Griot with Eboni K. Williams, weeknights at 6 p.m., I won't judge you, and neither will Ebony. Just make the change and make sure you tap in, because it is a show that is extremely important for the culture, and also a way that you can get valuable information, because it's all, we talk about politics and all these different topics, but we can't make educated decisions. We can't even have educated, substantive conversations without information. This is a great way for you to get that. So,
it's a show I'm really proud of too, Shari, just before we go, because like I say, we touch on all the pockets, right? Like obviously he had a little viral thing with the bus driver gate, and that was cute with Dr. Von Zant and all that. But when you really watch the show, in addition to some of those cultural conversations, which yes, we do have, we center in the stories of the beautiful Black woman who's 63 years young in Hilton Head, South Carolina right now, who's having her land being threatened to be stolen from her by the government. We tell that story, and not just tell the story, we tell you how you can help this young sister out. You know, we tell the story of Uncle Willie's Barbecue, which has been ran out of business because a Marriott hotel company wanted to disrespect its placement. And we talk about those types of things. We tell the beautiful stories of Black entrepreneurship and Black ownership. We just featured our mutual friend, Miss Giselle Phelps, and Grand Rising Talent on our Black business feature this month, along with many others. So the Griot is really a place where, and then of course, after every single episode, you're going to get Auntie E's take, known as the sidebar. And in that, you know, I give it to you straight. Like that whole reparations thing, that was an example of a sidebar, you know, where I tell you flat out, listen, we talked about the March on Washington today. This is my take on how that applies to us 60 years later. Boom, here we go. You know, so 6 o'clock, check your local listings, also available on streaming. The Griot is a really great place. And then you got Mark Lamont Hill's show at 7 right after mine, if you want some more good tea.
And speaking of tea, you might not get too much on Ebony's social media, but I still want her to share it anyway, so that you guys can tap in and follow and comment if you are not already doing so.
Yeah, y'all catch Auntie only on Instagram at Eboni, Eboni Williams. I don't do none of that X, TikTok, none of that other shit y'all doing. Just Instagram.
I'm barely on it too. Ebony, I adore you. I am so grateful. Love you, and I can't wait to do this again. Next time, I got to get you in studio, or maybe I'll come out to where you are. We're going to get the camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to get to New York, and I'll be down there. You in the A still?
Yes, come on down. We'll figure it out.
I'll be down in A-Town at some point this fall. Okay, bye, sweetie pie.
Part 2. See you later.
It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Just my opinion. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Get out your feelings. It's just a thought. It's just a thought.